This story began with the protagonist immersed in a video game where a menacing skeleton addressed the knight, declaring him truly worthy of being his rival. The skeleton remarked that indeed the rumors were true, and that the title Nightmare of the Continent suited him perfectly. Yet, he added, as long as the forces of light stood by their side, they would never surrender. Sang Hoon thought to himself that this was both a terrifying immortal king and a noble knight of light. He sipped on his soda, wondering aloud if their dramatic clash was a bit overdone. Still, he acknowledged it was just a performance. But how had things ended up this way? Even this unlucky guy stuck in his closet watching it all unfold. Wasn't that also him? Before long, there was a knock at the protagonist's door. A staff member holding a pen and a piece of paper introduced himself as being from the Special Ability Control Bureau, Relocation and Investigation Department. He asked if Sung Hyun was present. The protagonist confirmed with an eager expression. The employee explained that his identity had been verified and requested that, could he awaken, he reported immediately to the Special Abilities Control Bureau. Sang Hyun reflected that it was the first time he had spoken to a stranger in half a year. Now that the conversation was over, he figured he wouldn't need to open the door for another 6 months. It had been 2 years since he last stepped outside. Some might call him pathetic. Others might accuse him of lacking no power. But in truth, he saw himself as a casualty of a twisted world. Suddenly, the TV news caught his attention. A reporter announced that firefighters were battling a blaze at a shopping mall. The arsonist, it was said, was an awakened individual who had started the fire before transitioning to another world. Sung Hyun stared at the screen in shock, thinking an awakened person. Not long ago, people all over the world had begun awakening one by one, developing mysterious abilities referred to as special powers. After awakening, individuals were forced into another world within 24 hours, returning only after meeting specific conditions. However, very few ever came back alive. Desperate and hopeless, many of the awakened resorted to committing senseless crimes before their inevitable departure. 2 years ago, a reckless prank by one such awakened person had cost Sung Hyun both his family and his leg. Though he had tried to muster the resolve to start anew, the effort seemed futile. At one point, he sat on a specialized exercise machine. Attempting to work his legs, he slumped down, exhausted, asking himself what the point of all this was. Why was he so afraid of stepping outside? Perhaps with just a little more determination, something might change. Maybe he could leave this place and go somewhere, anywhere. Suddenly, a translucent system window materialized above his head. It displayed message dimensional distortion, detected connection to the Akasha system in progress. Awakening of a unique skill. The unique skilled avatar had been awakened, and a countdown began. 24 hours remained before transitioning to another world. Sun Hyun cried out in terror, exclaiming that this must be some kind of joke. Could it all happen so abruptly? The system window displayed a warning. Failure to enter the travel portal within the allotted time would result in a forced transition. With a panicked expression, Sun Hyun flung open his closet. He recalled hearing that returning to Earth took about a year, and with time in the other world flowing 10 times slower, this meant he'd have to endure 10 long years there to get back. Eventually, the protagonist, now clad in full gear, stood nervously before the glowing portal. The system window informed him that 3 minutes remained until the transition. Gripping his head in distress, Sun Hyun thought, I can't even step outside normally, and now there's a portal in front of me. I have no strength, no skills. How am I supposed to survive in another world? Suddenly, he remembered his unique skill. Sun Hyun shouted, determined, activate the avatar skill. At that moment, a clone materialized before him. He stumbled back in shock, gasping, that's me. Staring at the figure, he realized he was looking at a perfect copy of his own. The clone saw everything he did as though they shared the same vision. This is dizzying Sanyan matter. Trying to move and control the avatar, the realization hit him. It was impossible to act simultaneously with the clone. Then the system window chimed again. 1 minute remained until the transition. Failure to step into the portal would trigger a forced move. In desperation, Sun Hyun slumped against the clone's chest. This avatar is useless, he groaned. Just like me. If only someone else could take my place. Acting on a sudden impulse, Sun Hyun directed the avatar toward the portal. The system window acknowledged the identity of the awakened individual, confirming the start of the transition. Watching the avatar vanish into the portal, Sun Hyun cried out in astonishment. It worked. The move portal had accepted the avatar instead of him. The system window updated. The transition to the Alteric, a dimension, was complete. Moments later, Sun Hyun found himself looking at a dense forest. His heart raced with fear. The avatar was supposed to go, why am I here? But then the system clarified he could return to Earth via the return option in the Karma store. However, karma needed to be earned through adventures, and his current karma was at 0 sun. Hyun's vision suddenly blurred, realizing he wasn't physically in the forest, but instead seeing through the avatar's eyes. He shouted, I'm gonna be sick. The nausea overwhelmed him, and he abruptly woke up at home, sprinting to the sink to throw up. A few moments later, he sighed in relief. At least I survived the move, he muttered, gathering himself. Sun Hyun added with determination, summon the avatar here. A double appeared before him, and as it approached, the protagonist asked in frustration what he was supposed to do with such a useless ability. Suddenly, a system window appeared. announcing that he had achieved something remarkable, returning to Earth without using the Karma Store. As a bonus, he was granted the ability to teleport back once daily to his previous location using a portal. Additionally, his karma had increased. Sun Hyun, stunned, realizing that he had become the first awakened individual to return to Earth so quickly. The system window displayed his balance 119 Tenchi 13 karma points. His jaw dropped in shock. Could this much really be awarded just for sending the avatar? In one move, he had earned points equivalent to 10 years worth of. The system explained that karma is granted based on a person's impact in another world. Whether through good deeds, misdeeds, murders, or honest labor, it made no distinction. Accumulated karma could be spent on improving abilities or returning to Earth. Sun Hyun wondered if there had been some kind of mistake. What if he was still required to travel back to another world? Then, with a wry smile, he said, "Well, I didn't expect this to work. But who cares?" Turning to the system window, he noted that returning to Earth seemed pointless, since he was already here. The system offered a suggestion, improving his unique skill for 300,000 karma or exploring other status enhancements. Intrigued, Sun Hyun asked to see the details of the status upgrade section. Opening the tab, he saw an option to enhance regeneration for 10,000 karma. What is regeneration? He wondered aloud. Curious, he pressed the button. Instantly, a strange sensation coursed through his legs. Sun Hyun looked down in amazement. His legs had been fully healed. The injuries that had defined his life, the source of his pain and isolation, were gone. This wound had been more than an inconvenience. It symbolized his tragic farewell to his family and his retreat from the world. Now, it was as if none of it had ever happened. The system updated his status, informing him that his regeneration ability had surpassed the standard level 1 threshold. He had gained a new skill, Super Regeneration, which significantly enhanced his recovery powers. Later, Sun Hyun smiled as he exercised his legs on the simulator. Reflecting on his progress, he marveled at how the karma he had earned not only restored his legs but allowed him to grow stronger. Watching his productive training session, he admired how much power his legs now had. With plenty of karma still left, he pondered where to invest it next. Spotting the option to enhance his unique skill, he eagerly clicked on it. As he activated the system window, he wondered aloud, "What can I achieve by improving the avatar skill?" After some time, Sun Hyun stood before his upgraded clone, grinning. "You're a real man," he said. The double, admiring its new physique, remarked, "You've put in some serious effort, haven't you?" Sun Hyun chuckled, replying, "It's all thanks to hard training." After awakening the avatar skill, Sun Hyun realized his consciousness had split in two, allowing him to move freely. Along with this, he gained a new ability to enhance his weapon skills. The system window explained that with the Mind Center he could choose what information to receive. Sun Hyun thought, "This means I'll no longer experience disorientation, and even if the avatar gets hurt, I won't feel any pain." Grinning, he grabbed a gamepad and remarked that he could now explore another world while comfortably sitting at home, wrapped in a blanket as he considered his newfound control over the avatar. Sandia noted that it felt just like playing a video game, but this wasn't the only change. Now, he had 3 avatars. Pondering aloud, he wondered if their numbers would continue to grow as he developed the skill. "This could get confusing," he muttered. "I can't just keep calling them avatars. I need names." Looking around for inspiration, his gaze landed on a ketchup packet on the table. The first clone he declared will be called Hans. The system window updated, showing Hans's abilities: General Skills, Mind Center, Super Regeneration, Individual Skills, Mana Attraction. Note: first avatar is Sun Hyun. Turning to the second clone, Sun Hyun named him Heinz. The system displayed Heinz's abilities: General Skills, Mind Center, Super Regeneration, Individual Skills, Survivability. Note: second avatar is Sun Hyun. Sun Hyun couldn't help but comment, "Mana Attraction and Survivability. What kind of bizarre combination is this?" Then with a grin, he added, "Well, it's time to complete my long-awaited quest." Settling on the couch, Sun Hyun began controlling his clones. He sent Hans to teleport to another world, while Heinz took a bag of garbage and stepped outside. As Sun Hyun switched his attention to Heinz, he saw sunlight streaming down and marveled that he felt no anxiety. The Mind Center is working perfectly, he thought. Hans must already be in another world by now. Switching control to Hans, Sun Hyun observed that it was nighttime in a seemingly tranquil forest. "It's so quiet," he murmured. Just then, a black panther emerged from the dense foliage. Startled, he exclaimed, "How did that thing show up out of nowhere?" The panther lunged, but Hans quickly unsheathed his sword and drove it into the beast's mouth. Sun Hyun noted with satisfaction, "Exactly as I expected. No fear or pain. Just like a game." Hans withdrew the sword and finished off the panther. Sitting beside the panther's lifeless body, Hans muttered, "Is it this hard because I haven't leveled up yet? I'll be in big trouble if I run into another monster." Scanning the area, he spotted a small settlement in the distance. A short while later, Hans arrived at the village, where he was greeted by a villager named Globali. Smiling warmly, Globali welcomed him, praising his courage for navigating the monster-filled forest at such a late hour. Hans grinned, gesturing to his injured body. I've got wounds all over me, Elder. Do you think I could stay in the village for the night, Glow? Callie nodded with a kind smile. Of course, he said. We should always help each other. Hans exhaled with relief and gratefully thanked the Elder. A short time later, they were walking through the village, passing by the houses. The Elder commented that it was the first time he had seen such clothing and equipment, asking if Hans had come from far away. Hans chuckled. I got a little lost. Kept walking and somehow ended up here. The Elder smiled warmly. It's nice to meet someone new after such a long time. How about we share a drink at the tavern? Later that night, Hans lay on a bed, smiling to himself. They even gave me a room here, he mused. The longer he stayed, the more he thought about how kind the villagers were. How long has it been since I felt so happy? Talking to people today really was a good day. Meanwhile, the protagonist sat on his couch, holding a mug of alcohol. This is great, he said aloud, savoring the feeling. Eating chicken after a shower. Pure bliss. Traveling around the world like this is amazing. Feeling a pang of guilt, he added. I'm embarrassed though. Hans is working so hard out there. He reflected that Hans was practicing his survivability. I don't know when I'll have to send him away again, so it's good. He's preparing with a smile. Sung Hyung included this is fantastic. But no matter how much my clones accomplish, I need to learn more about the other world. What kind of place is it really? He opened his laptop, smiling as he thought. I'll be a great leader. Suddenly, a system window appeared, declaring Avatar is dead. All skills and data acquired by the Avatar will be reset. Sang Hyun froze in horror. Hans died. He pointed at the system window, panicked. He died in that village. Could it have been that old man's doing? Did he slip something into the drink? He shook his hat, frustrated. How careless of me. Then a thought struck him. Wait, am I reconnecting to the Avatar at the same time? Back in the Glow, Callie stood with another man near Hans's lifeless body. I thought he'd be useful. Glow Callie, but he turned out to be just an empty shell. He managed to get through the forest alone, so I thought he had real potential, but in the end, he's just another elite skeleton. As Sung Hyun began to control Hans's body again, he wandered in shock. What's happening here? The system window popped up stating race changed to undead. New skill, acquired, decomposed heart, Hans's updated profile. Red race. Undead, general skills, mind center, super regeneration, individual skills, mana attraction. Note the mind center prevents mental damage. Sang Hyun's thoughts raced in panic. What is going on? Glancing to the side, he spotted a large number of skeletons behind a glass wall. Fear gripped him as he realized, could it be that these lunatics turned all the villagers into undead? Just then, a living man entered the basement. Who was this? Sung Hyun wondered. Wait, isn't that the guy from the tavern? Yesterday, the man, visibly annoyed, grumbled. How much longer do I have to stay in this dump? His gaze shifted to Hans's body on the floor, and he stared at it intently. The protagonist anxiously wondered what the man was staring at. Did he really notice? I've come to my senses? The man pointed at Hans's body with irritation and grumbled. Why is this? Knucklehead. Still here? Why do I have to redo what everyone else has already done? Move the skeleton's body over there. Sun Hyun felt a jolt of worry. Even though my heart isn't beating, I think I almost had a heart attack. He could feel a strange force trying to move Hans's body against his will. By concentrating, he managed to resist the pull, but he decided it was wiser to obey for now. The man muttered with frustration. Why does the old man always make me check on these weirdos? What a meticulous pain in the neck. Sun Hyun reflected nervously. This force, it feels so familiar. It's the same one that moved my dead body earlier. Could it be linked to the mana attraction skill? His thoughts raced. If that's the case, maybe I can figure out how to control it, and if I can control this force, I might be able to take command of all the other undead. 21 weeks later in the dim basement, Hans's undead body sat on a stack of wooden boxes, his skeletal fingers twitching with faint magical energy. Across from him, a skeleton lay crumpled on the floor with a flick of Sun Hyun's. The skeleton stood up stiffly, moving as though animated by invisible strings. Sanyan grinned. I finally did it. I can control others now, although it's not exactly what I imagined. I can only influence one undead at a time, not a whole crowd. Guess an elite skeleton like me isn't capable of much more yet. Suddenly, the sharp hiss of a rat caught his attention. He snapped forward, grabbing the small creature in his bony hands. So it was this little pest gnawing at my heels all week. You're a fast and nimble one, aren't you? The tiny nasty thing. An idea struck him. What if I used my magic on something small and fast, like this rat, instead of a person? He focused his mana, and the rat's eyes glowed an eerie red. Sun Hyun carefully set it down, grinning. Operation Nightwatch begins. He said to himself, let's see what secrets I can uncover with this little spy. Outside the warehouse, through the rat's glowing eyes, Sun Hyun observed a man pacing outside. Why is this guy whining so much? He thought, amused. Then the man opened a heavy wooden door, revealing a second dimly lit warehouse. The rat scurried forward, darting toward the open passage. Suddenly, a surge of energy pulsed through the air, halting its progress. Sun Hyun recoiled instinctively. Even with the emotional dampening of the mind center active, that energy, it's overwhelming. They can't risk getting closer. From within the warehouse, he overheard a conversation. Jeffrey, a sharp-featured man, asked impatiently, when will the maturation process be done? That fragment of the immortal king. It feels like it's sucking part of my soul every time I go in there. It'll be soon, right? The teacher's been stuck in there for days. Another man replied, his tone cautious. It should be soon, but isn't it funny we're guarding this place so tightly? With traps set all over the village, and even here not even a mouse could sneak through. Sun Hyun's thoughts swirled. A fragment of the immortal king. That must be what they're guarding, but where else can I gather information? And where did that old man disappear to? Moments later, a sudden flash of magical energy pierced the rat's body, shattering the connection. The elder approached, his expression calm and his tone almost amused. A simple mouse, he said, brushing his robes as he inspected the remains. Sun Hyun unseated from his safe distance. This old idiot, he noticed, even a tiny spy. This is gonna be more difficult than I thought. The protagonist's thoughts raced as he wondered, did they really figure me out? The old man stepped closer, inspecting the rat's lifeless body. An undead, he muttered, puzzled. I don't sense black magic, but its body is brimming with dark mana. Could mana influence alone have turned this rat? To an undead, there's only one place filled with such dark mana. He turned to the man nearby and asked sharply, Jeffrey, you're in charge of the warehouse today, aren't you, son? Hyun, observing from afar, felt a pang of guilt. I'm sorry, little rat. You've done well. I'll avenge your death. I promise. Watch over me from wherever you are. Sometime later, Jeffrey stormed into the basement, his face twisted in rage. A rat. All this fuss over a damn rodent. That stupid old man. He seated, pacing wildly, then glaring at Hans's undead form, he barked, Hey, why the hell are you standing there like that? Follow my order and stand up straight as Hans's dead body remains. Jeffrey's irritation boiled over. He approached menacingly, raising a fist. Didn't I tell you to stand up straight? He spat, grabbing Hans by the hair. He yanked him forward. Aren't you the fool who dared to stand against me? Didn't you threaten to kill me if I touched your family? Go on, repeat it. His face twisted into a sadistic grin. Ooh, that's right. I ripped out your tongue, Jeffrey sneered, tossing Hans to the floor like a discarded doll. You should be thankful I let you live, even after we hunted down every idiot in your pathetic village. And your wife. She's here too, isn't she? What about your children? I'll wait. Maybe they're with other families now. The tables turned suddenly. Hans's undead body sprang to life, lunging at Jeffrey and sinking his teeth into the man's neck. Jeffrey let out a horrified scream as he collapsed to the ground. What? What's happening to me? Stop, he stammered, his voice trembling with fear. Reaching out desperately, he began casting magic, but before he could finish, another undead figure, the reanimated body of Hans's wife, pounced on him from behind. Together, the two undead silenced Jeffrey forever. Sun Hyun, controlling Hans's body, felt a grim satisfaction. Their revenge has only just begun. A bold plan. Meanwhile, Sun Hyun switched control to Heinz and approached the village guards. My brother lives in this village, he shouted. The guards frowned. Your brother, he left not long ago. What makes you think we'll just let a stranger in? Heinz grinned. If that's the case, then bring me to the village elder. They'll recognize me. Moments later, Globally arrived, his expression calm but inquisitive. What seems to be the matter? Heinz greeted him warmly, bowing slightly. Elder, it's a pleasure to meet you. I believe my twin brother Hans is somewhere here. Hyun smirked inwardly. Having two avatars really comes in handy for moments like this. While Heinz kept Globally distracted, Sun Hyun, through Hans's body, infiltrated the warehouse and approached the fragment of the immortal. The fragment pulsed with a dark, otherworldly energy, resonating with the undead around it. Is it absorbing the energy from the undead? No, it's more like it's replenishing itself. This explains why the people here are so unnaturally strong. That warehouse I was stuck in before must have been a dumping ground. And yet these fools dare to act superior. They'll learn soon enough. Sun Hyun activated his abilities, drawing the fragment toward him. A powerful surge of energy echoed throughout the village, shaking the very ground. The elder's realization. Back at the gates, Heinz maintained his ruse. Twins are connected, he said with a sly smile. We always know where the other. Glow? Callie frowned, his suspicion growing hard to believe. He muttered suddenly, his eyes widened in panic. He sensed a disturbance and shouted, Something's wrong with the fragment. Kill this fool immediately. In a blur of movement, Globally transformed into a monstrous darkened form and hurtled toward the source of the disturbance. His face twisted with rage. The guards, startled by Heinz's sudden disappearance, raised their spears in confusion. Meanwhile, the protagonist reflected on the overwhelming surge of emotions emanating from the fragment. Such an irresistible flow of negative energy, even with the mind center filtering the input. It's like a tidal wave. Could anyone endure this and remain sane? Suddenly, a deafening explosion of energy shook the area and the system window materialized before him. System notification. Your essence meets the condition. Information. Unlocked. Immortal Magician demonic rank increased due to the power of the fragment of the Immortal King. Dark magic hidden in the fragment has assimilated with your essence. New skill acquired demonic wisdom. This skill grants mastery of dark magic and an innate understanding of its mechanics. San Juan marveled at the new power. Demonic wisdom. Just by observing dark magic, I can wield it as if I've known it forever. This changes everything. In the basement, a man stood near the remnants of Jeffrey's last stand, muttering to himself, "That idiot couldn't even handle a zombie rat. Now I have to clean up this mess." Before he could proceed, the elder's booming voice rang out. "Check the fragment immediately and find Jeffrey." Grumbling, the man approached the cage containing the fragment. "Why is it so quiet?" he asked, leaning closer. Suddenly, a mass of undead surged from the shadows, clawing at him. Panicked, the man shouted, "This is impossible. How can they?" His words faltered as Heinz's voice cut through the chaos, calm and sarcastic. "Lovely weather today, isn't it?" The man's eyes widened in horror. How is he talking? The undead latched onto him, but he managed to release a small burst of magic, pushing them back momentarily. However, the cage shattered, releasing a flood of monsters into the basement. Heinz smirked, his voice dripping with mock politeness, ignoring someone's greeting. "How rude, son," he unobserved through Heinz's, marveling at the newfound power demonic wisdom granted him. Dark magic feels as natural as breathing. This knowledge, it's like it was always there, waiting for me to unlock it. Outside, a massive explosion rocked the village. As the undead spilled into the streets, Heinz commanded them with unwavering authority. "Don't let anyone escape. Kill them all." The confrontation with Glokali, as Skeleton's body fell before Heinz and the elder Glokali, emerged. His expression cold and furious. "You should have been an elite skeleton," he growled. "What did you do with the fragment of the Immortal King?" Heinz greeted him with a grin. "Globally, it's been too long. By the way, thanks to you, I lost my heart. Fortunately, I found a new one in your warehouse, Glow." Charlie's face contorted with rage. "You dare to merge a fragment of the Immortal King with such a pitiful body? You've gone too far." Raising his hand, he invoked a powerful spell, Finger of Death. A wave of dark energy surged forward, striking Heinz with enough force to sever his arm. Heinz glanced at his dismembered limb, more annoyed than pained. Attacking someone mid-conversation. "Really? Where are your manners?" Silence globally roared. "Do you have any idea how much effort and resources I've poured into this fragment? An entire year's worth of preparation, and you've ruined everything." Locally's eyes blazed with fury. "I was so close." He growled to wielding a power greater than anything in existence. "And now you've turned my masterpiece into this." Heinz smirked, wrapped in the swirling energy of dark magic. "What's wrong? Old man can't handle a rookie demonic dark thorn glow." Kali roared, sending tendrils of shadow magic spiraling toward Heinz. Heinz laughed. "Using high-ranking magic against a beginner, you must really be desperate." His voice turned cold as he countered effortlessly. "I'm the only one who can truly control the fragment, and you know it." Globally sneered. "You may have survived the destruction of your body, and I'll dismantle it and use it for experiments. Let's see how you handle this destructive ectoplasm." Hein scowled. "Stop reciting your skills like an amateur." His voice rose with disdain. "And just die already." Alfred the Elder froze for a moment. "Alfred." His expression twisted into suspicion. "How do you know? Name, did you sneak into this village intentionally?" Before Heinz could reply, a surge of dark magic shot toward Glokali from behind. The Elder reacted swiftly, deflecting the attack with ease. He narrowed his eyes. "You're adapting quickly to dark magic. Is it the fragments doing? No matter. I have no time to waste." Raising his hand, globally activated another spell, Pact of Destruction. The battlefield dimmed as the souls of the fallen black magicians coalesced, swirling around globally like a maelstrom. A dark crown materialized on his head, amplifying his power. Heinz watched warily. "You're sacrificing the souls of your own allies. For this? How fittingly vile of you, Glow." Kali snarled, his voice thunderous. "With the full power of this fragment, I would have crushed you, but no matter now." Flame of souls soaked in darkness. A massive surge of fiery dark energy erupted toward Heinz. The final blow. Before the spell could reach its mark, a streak of magic pierced through Hallie's chest. The Elder stumbled, his expression frozen in disbelief. Ian stood unimpressed. "Took you long enough to tire yourself out. Honestly, I almost fell asleep while you were chanting all those fancy spells." He added with a smirk. "By the way, thanks for plunging me headlong into dark magic. I think I finally mastered it." Blood trickled from Glycolic's lips as he collapsed to his knees. "How could I die like this? So senselessly." Heinz watched him fall lifelessly to the ground. Raising his gaze to the sky, he muttered, "Alfred, I hope you saw all of this. Your revenge is complete. Rest in peace." Elsewhere in a grand cathedral, Bristol knelt before a massive statue, her hands clasped in prayer. The flickering light of candles illuminated her solemn face. A knock interrupted her meditation. Rising, she opened the door to find Martin, his face pale with urgency. "Are you finished praying?" he asked. "Yes," she replied calmly. "What's the matter?" Martin hesitated, then blurted, "The ghost of the Immortal King's resurrection has been detected in the west." Raised, his eyes widened slightly, though she maintained her composure. "The Immortal King?" Martin nodded grimly. "I'll summon the council immediately." As he left, Rista turned back toward the statue, her expression hardening. The one who brought terror to this continent, hundreds of years ago. I won't let it happen again. On the battlefield, Heinz surveyed the wreckage. The remnants of the battle littered around him. Devastation, he muttered. Hundreds of undead destroyed. A grin crept across his face, but losses can always be replenished. There's no need to mourn. He turned, the dark magic emanating from him, pulsating with new strength. After all, this is only the beginning. Heinz stood, surveying his work. The most wonderful thing about necromancy, he mused, was the ability to create soldiers from corpses. He glanced at his missing limb, irritated, and muttered to himself. First things first, we'll need to take care of the hand. He had already walked a lot today, moving through the battlefield and observing the aftermath. His thoughts turned to his own body, and the need to fix it before going any further. Looking around, Heinz's eyes fell upon a lone skeleton, its bones still fresh from the battle. Without hesitation, he tore off its arm, examining the form. This will do. He attached the arm to his shoulder with practiced ease, and placed his other hand over the spot, enveloping it with energy. Super regeneration, activated, he muttered under his breath. Clenching his fist, he tested the new limb. Perfect, he said, pleased with the results. The regeneration took a moment, but soon the arm was securely attached, and Heinz's body was as whole as it could be. In its current state, where to start? You won. He stepped forward, hands extended as he focused his energy. The skeleton in front of him was about to become his first test. With a commanding tone, he spoke aloud. You must become my subordinate. The voice of the evil wisdom, the fragment of the immortal king that had fused with his soul, whispered to him in the back of his mind. Its presence filled him with strength, guiding him toward his goal. Return the remaining magical power to your body. Cleanse it of the fragments of thoughts. But as he focused, something went wrong. The skeleton suddenly fell apart, crumbling into dust. What? Heinz raised his hands in confusion. Didn't work. A moment of silence followed his Heinz stood before the pile of bones, arms folded, contemplating. He muttered to himself as realization dawned on him. I've been going about this wrong. After a few attempts, it clicked. He turned his gaze toward the village chief's body, still lying in the aftermath of the battle. A dark idea began to form. He pointed his hand toward the body and spoke. Slowly, should I turn you into an undead with a soul to extract information from you? Grabbing the lifeless form of Markham by the clothes, Heinz lifted him up for closer inspection. What? He exclaimed, his voice tinged with surprise. The old man doesn't have a soul. Machine's body had been stripped of any trace of life, except for the magic circle burned into his chest. Heinz examined the symbol and thought for a moment. So, this is how they've been controlling things. Throwing Macy's body aside, Heinz couldn't help but smirk at the oversight. It's strange they didn't think of this little thing considering the scale of their operations, he muttered. But no matter, I can still use this with renewed focus. Heinz concentrated energy into his hand. If the soul is gone, I'll have to make do with what's left. He directed the energy straight into Macy's body, deciding that he would turn the old man into something more useful. A high-level undead with consciousness and combat skills. Heinz's magic spiraled through the corpse, desecrating the remnants of its magical power, and cleansing it of any remaining fragment of thought. A few moments later, the body twitched and Markham rose to his feet, now an obedient death mage. The undead mage stood before Heinz, waiting for orders. His voice was hollow, but clear. I await your command. Heinz looked at him with curiosity. You're speaking? I didn't even expect that result, he muttered, impressed. He turned to Markham, his expression cold. Your name is Markham. From now on, you will obey me. Without hesitation, Heinz slammed his hand against the undead mage's skull. Markham flinched, but immediately responded with desperation. I will obey, he smirked, rubbing the bruise on Macy's head. Even if he lost his memories, his sins remain. I'll enjoy this. Turning his attention to Macy's, Kane Heinz casually remarked. It looks pretty good, machine. Bones trembled, his fear palpable. His new existence as a death mage was not one of autonomy, it was one of fear and servitude. The power of the immortal king's fragment coursed through Heinz, and with it, the ability to control life, death, and everything in between. Heinz's grin widened. You're going to be a useful tool. As the protagonist stood looking over the gold he had gathered, his thoughts shifted to the mountain of corpses he had left behind. Among the undead, there was one particularly young zombie, a grim reminder of the recent battle. This young zombie who killed Jeffy along with him, he thought. He placed his hand on the zombie's head in a strangely respectful gesture. Well, he should rest in peace with his family. With a flick of his wrist, he directed fire at the building nearby, setting it ablaze. The principle of flames in the distance was the only sound that could be heard as the protagonist briefly considered the devastation. He had no turning back now. Back in his hideout, the protagonist sat comfortably at a table, his belly full after a satisfying meal. He leaned back, smiling contentedly. I ate too much, he said to himself, his voice light. God, that was delicious. He glanced at his phone, curiosity peaking. What's the gold rate? He muttered aloud, tapping the screen. The village had been full of magicians, and given their affinity for treasure and arcane wealth, there was bound to be a lot of gold left behind. Just think, these people had accumulated a fortune. He began considering what he might do with the loot. Maybe I should take a closer look at what's left. With a deliberate motion, he reached out, muttering, "Summon Hans." In an instant, his avatar appeared before him and an ominous aura filled the room. The feeling was intense, suffocating, his presence too strong for the quiet of the space. The protagonist's eyes widened in panic as he recoiled, covering his face, cancelled the summoning. He shouted in fear. As quickly as the avatar had appeared, it vanished. He gasped for breath, his heart racing. "I thought I was gonna die," he muttered to himself. "What should I do now?" He scratched the back of his head in frustration, trying to regain his composure. "I need to summon Hans, but maybe I should improve my unique skill first." The protagonist's thoughts turned inward, and he focused on accessing the Karma Shop, a place where he could enhance his abilities. Moments later, a system window appeared in front of him. He marveled at the results. "I earned more than I expected," he mused. The last time, he had just over 400,000 karma. Now the amount had grown. He selected the item to improve his unique skill and spent a hefty 300,000 karma. A message popped up on the screen stating that his skill had improved. The number of avatars you can own has increased. His mental strength exceeded the norm, and as the information sunk in, he clenched his fist, enveloped in a surge of energy. Serenity. This skill would protect him from external stimuli and mental attacks. A welcome upgrade for the challenges ahead. Later, he began filling a paper bag with gold, thinking about the potential. With my normal state of health, Hans can benefit from serenity. Unlike the center of the mind, it was incredible how he always seemed to pick the right skills when needed. When the bag was full of gold, he smiled with satisfaction. Great time. Sell the gold. He quickly moved the filled bags as well as a backpack full of gold to the table in front of the committee. As he laid the bags out, the workers couldn't hide their astonishment. They gasped, shielding their eyes from the precious glow radiating from the gold. The protagonist nodded, maintaining his calm demeanor. "Please deposit all the funds to my account." He then turned and walked outside, leaving the employees to complete their task. They bowed in gratitude, thanking him for his trust. Sung Hyun offered a smile in return, wishing them well. As he walked away, he glanced at his shadow on the ground, remembering how Hans had hidden it with dark magic, just in case. Maybe I was worried for nothing. Amused, the shadow was well concealed, even masked to avoid detection. Just as he was about to leave the area, an explosion echoed from behind him. The building rocked, debris flying through the air. Wolf stood amidst the destruction, his grin wide as he surveyed the damage. "Looks like we hit the jackpot," he said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. Holding a bag of gold in his hand, the protagonist, Sung Hyun, grinned, looking at the treasure he had gathered. Who would have thought there'd be so much gold in such a remote place? He mused, clearly pleased with the haul. His grin was wide, but it was quickly interrupted as a bandit beside him. Stop chatting. It's time for us to run without wasting time." They made their way forward, running swiftly through the streets. "I know," Wolf shouted, his confidence undeterred. As they sprinted ahead of them, they spotted Sang Hyun, who looked at them in fear and shouted, "Villains! Someone needs to report them. These criminals using their awakened powers for evil, and the ones who protect citizens from them are—" His words were cut off as a powerful blow struck his cheek. Wolf, dealing the blow, shouted, "Shut up." His voice was a harsh command, shutting down Sun King's words before they could gain any traction. The protagonist touched his bruised cheek and thought to himself, "The guards will probably track them down. I can't do anything." Meanwhile, Wolf ran confidently forward, saying, "Great. Everything is going according to plan." The bandit hanging from his back added, "We've got plenty of time. The guards will be here in about 3 minutes. We just need to reach the portal." "Is she here?" As they neared their destination, they saw something that made them stop in their tracks. A girl lying unconscious on the ground. The wolf stopped and shouted, "Portal. What happened to her? She needs to wake up." His voice was laced with urgency. The bandit, looking around nervously, turned to the wolf and said, "Look over there." His voice trembled as he pointed, and the wolf looked to see a figure standing in front of them, masked and glowing ominously in the distance. "Hans?" the wolf muttered. Trying to make sense of the situation, he couldn't help but ask, "Who's that?" "The guards." The bandit, shaking his head, whispered, "That idiot isn't one of them." As Hans moved closer, he reached up to remove his mask. Sung Hyun won't be able to do anything, Hans thought. But he knew that his avatar was a different matter entirely. The bandits looked on in fear, raising their hands in surrender. Time passed, and soon the guards of the South Korean Returned Association arrived at the scene, their boots pounding the ground as they ran. The lead guard shouted confidently. Here he looked back at his colleagues, urging them forward. "Are we going to miss him again?" When they arrived, they froze. "Surprise? What happened here?" the guard asked. He surveyed the area where the bandits lay defeated on the ground. The wolf, still dazed, had lost his mask in the scuffle. The lead guard assumed that someone had dealt with the villains, but that they couldn't have gotten far. He turned to his colleagues, gesturing around the area, searched the surroundings carefully. Meanwhile, Hans, like a shadow, moved swiftly through the area. He flew past the guards, heading straight towards Sang-Hyun. As they reunited, Sung-Hyun couldn't help but smile. "I see you've warmed up well," he remarked, pleased with the success of their plan. The tension hung in the air as the scene shifted to what would come next, the consequences of their actions. In the looming threat of the guards' arrival, Heinz strolled around the parking lot with his hands in his pockets, feeling a sense of satisfaction as he reflected on how relieving stress like this could sometimes be a good idea. His mind was clear for the moment, and the mundane surroundings seemed to offer a rare calm. Meanwhile, Hans, his second avatar who possessed the unique skill, Mentality, stood at the entrance to his city on the east side, with a smile on his face. He shielded his eyes from the sun as he looked out at the unfamiliar skyline. "I finally made it here," he said, a hint of excitement in his voice. He remembered Malcolm's words about this city, and after seeing it for himself, he concluded that the old man hadn't lied. After all, stepping into the city, Hans mused aloud, "This is my debut in another world." But even as he admired the bustling surroundings, something didn't feel right. "Although there's still everything ahead," he added, scanning the area. However, as he walked deeper into the city, he realized something. Why was the city so empty? It seemed that the locals weren't paying much attention to newcomers. People went about their business as if strangers were a normal occurrence, not even sparing Hans a glance. Just then, in a nearby alley, a robber turned to his companion Diana and exclaimed, "Was this a joke?" He pointed an accusing finger at her, his expression dark. "I warned you," Diana, trembling, folded her hands in a prayer pose and apologized, pleading for a little more time. The robber's tone grew harsher. "I want 2 silver coins from both of you," he demanded, "and you have 3 days no money. Then there's no other choice." Hans, who had been casually observing the scene from the corner of his eye, thought to himself, local thugs and the young girl being manipulated? How cliché. He was about to continue walking, uninterested in getting involved. But fate had other plans. As Diana turned and tried to flee from the robbers, she collided with Hans. She stumbled back, immediately lowering her head in apology. "Sorry," she muttered, not knowing who he was. "Let's talk," Hans said, his tone calm as he sized her up. "How well do you know this city?" It was clear to him that he would need a guide. "Who are you, uncle?" she asked, surprised by the stranger's sudden question. Hans grinned, holding up 2 silver coins in his hand. "I'm a potential employer," he said, his smile widening. "Maybe we can discuss the terms." Diana's eyes widened as she stared at the silver coins, the promise of money catching her attention. She quickly agreed, and the two of them made their way through the streets toward an inn. When they arrived, Diana pointed to the building. "This inn is one of the best places you'll find here," she said, clearly proud of her choice. "What do you think, Hans?" Now understanding a bit more about her situation, nodded thoughtfully. He could tell from the way she spoke that life hadn't been easy for her. Diana had barely been making ends meet, struggling to care for her sick brother after the loss of her parents. She also mentioned how she couldn't pay the local tax. In response, Hans handed her a silver coin, and Diana's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Okay," Hans said, with a smile. "You'll come to me tomorrow, as soon as you wake up. We can discuss your pay then." Diana agreed quickly, and with that she became his guide, earning 2 silver coins a day. That night, Hans lay down on the bed at the inn, his hands tucked under his head as he made himself comfortable. "Well," he thought, "I'll pretend I'm doing a good deed, even if she just wants to rob me." He chuckled to himself and settled in for the night, his thoughts drifting off as he prepared for whatever the next day might bring. Heinz sat up in bed, scratching his head in frustration. The bed was terribly uncomfortable, and despite his best efforts, he couldn't seem to fall asleep. He tossed and turned for a while, but then a sudden sneeze from outside caught his attention. Curiosity piqued. He got up and walked to the window, pressing his hand to the glass. His eyes widened and surprised as he spotted Diana sitting on the ground outside, leaning her back against the box. "Hey, is that her?" he muttered to himself. Diana looked up at him, her eyes widening, and then smiled, waving in greeting. "Hello," she called up to him. Heinz was indignant. "What are you doing there?" he shouted down, clearly irritated. "Why are you waiting for me?" After a moment, they were sitting together at the table, eating breakfast. Heinz frowned as he took a bite, his frustration still simmering. "You shouldn't do that again," he said, trying to sound stern. "Next time, wait until closer to lunch." Diana, chewing a piece of food, nodded absent-mindedly. "Yes, uncle," she said. Heinz shot her a glare. "I've already told you not to call me that," he replied, annoyance creeping into his voice. She looked at him, then glanced at the piece of bread on his plate. "Are you full?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm fine," Heinz replied. "You can take it if you're hungry." With a smile, Diana took the bread and slipped it into her bag. "Thank you," she said, grateful. The town they were in was called Ozen, to a small village located on the western edge of the kingdom of Talia. As Heinz and Diana walked through the streets, Heinz noticed something odd. He ran his hand along a drawing on a wall, which reminded him of ordinary medieval towns, but something about the symbol that was repeated throughout the town felt off. "This symbol? It's strange," he murmured, his curiosity growing. Heinz examined it more closely and said, "It looks like paint, but something's not right." Diana leaned in to take a closer look, and her face darkened. "It's blood," she replied, her tone serious. Heinz blinked, not believing it at first. He sniffed the symbol and gave a skeptical look. "Is that true?" he asked. Diana, not missing a beat, quipped, "Didn't you eat venison soup yesterday?" Heinz turned to her in surprise, blinking in disbelief. "How did you know?" he asked with a smile. Diana pointed to her nose and said, I have a very good sense of smell. Heinz found it fascinating. A good sense of smell, he thought. Is that her special skill? They continued walking through the streets, Heinz still pondering the implications of her statement. He asked, "What does the symbol mean?" Diana hesitated for a moment, then answered, "It's the emblem of the Varkalak Guild, which controls this place." But before she could finish, she froze, her face paling in fear. She began to slowly back away, bumping into Heinz. "What's wrong?" Heinz asked, alarmed by her sudden change in demeanor. Diana's eyes darted around nervously. "That smell," she said, her voice tight. Heinz furrowed his brow. "What smell?" he asked, not sure what she was talking about. Diana inhaled deeply. Her eyes closed as she focused on the scent. Then, with a sense of urgency, she turned around. Her fist clenched. "Freshly baked bread," she exclaimed. "I have to try it." Heinz, confused, but amused, asked, "Didn't you eat a minute ago?" Diana pointed ahead, her face lighting up with anticipation. "I'm hungry again," she said, clearly excited by the smell. They followed the scent down an alley, which led them to a door. When they peeked inside, Heinz's stomach dropped. Behind the door was a corpse, its lifeless body sprawled on the ground. The smell of bread was still in the air, but the sight of the body made it clear that something sinister was at play. A few days later, Heinz stood against a wall, arms folded, waiting impatiently. "She's never been late before," he muttered. Something must be wrong. Just then, a bandit approached him, a smirk on his face. "Hey buddy," the bandit called out, drawing Heinz's attention. Heinz looked at the bandit in surprise, unsure of what to make of the situation. The bandit, arms folded and wearing a smug expression, said, "We should talk." Heinz felt a moment of frustration, thinking to himself, "Has it really come to this?" The next instant, he handed the bandits a handful of silver coins, offering them a smile. "Take this," he said, trying to remain calm. "There aren't many, but I hope they help maintain some sense of public order." The bandits exchanged looks, then one of them picked up a silver coin, a grin spreading across his face. "Seems we've quickly found a common language," he remarked, clearly amused. Heinz thought to himself, "I brought money just for this kind of situation." But then his eyes narrowed as he noticed something. The bandit had a symbol on his neck, one that looked strikingly similar to the emblem Heinz had seen on the walls of the city earlier. His thoughts turned grim. "Diana had warned me to avoid the alleys. We need to leave this place as soon as possible." Heinz couldn't help but wonder just how terrified the girl must have been, given how deeply afraid she'd seemed of the thugs. Bandits moved away, but one of them turned to the other and asked, "Why did you grab this brat?" His comrade responded dismissively, "How should I know? Idiot, we're just following orders." The word struck Heinz like a blow. "Brat," he thought, "don't tell me those two fight in Krabdien without thinking." He shouted after them. "Wait a minute." The bandits turned around in surprise, eyeing him curiously. Heinz clenched his fist. "Damn it. Timing is everything. In situations like these, if things get dangerous, I can just cancel the call." He forced a smile, trying to stay calm. "There's something I wanted to know." At that moment, Diana's voice suddenly called out to him and he turned around in shock. Diana, the bandit, now flexing his fist with an irritated expression, remarked, "So what's your friend interested in?" Heinz gave an awkward smile, trying to keep the conversation light. "Is the silver I gave enough?" A little while later, one of the bandits returned with a bag in his hands. They took everything he said nonchalantly, tossing the bag aside before turning toward Heinz. The bandit's expression hardened. "And where's the rest of it? You were supposed to meet us long ago." Heinz shot him a glare. "Did you even know how much I gave you in that moment?" Diana's face fell and tears began to form in her eyes. "My little brother is missing," she sobbed, her voice trembling. "He was just starting to get better. He could eat again, but now I can't find him anywhere." Heinz's mind raced as he recalled the conversation he'd overheard between the bandits. Could they be talking about Diana's brother? He asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. Could it be Varkalak? Diana looked up at him, her face stricken with terror. "No," she whispered, shaking her head in despair. Heinz frowned and asked gently, "What do you mean?" Tears streamed down Diana's cheeks. "They really took him," she choked out. "Aaron will die if they hurt him." Heinz's heart sank as he watched her crumble in front of him, the weight of her words sinking in. He knelt down beside her, trying to comfort her the best he could. "Don't worry so much," he said softly. "If they want a ransom, I'll pay it. You won't be alone in that." But Diana, her voice barely above a whisper, whispered in disbelief, "They really took him. Aaron will die." Heinz's heart pounded in his chest as Diana's words hit him like a cold shock. "Blood," she had said. He repeated the word in disbelief. "Why blood?" he asked, struggling to understand. Diana, still shaking with fear, managed to sit up. "This city," she whispered, her voice trembling, "is a warehouse for live blood bags for vampires." Heinz's mind reeled as the weight of her words sank in. Before he could process it further, a voice from above cut through the tension. A vampire stood on the roof, his figure silhouetted against the setting sun. "The smell of dark mana is strong," he said with a low, cruel smirk. "Did they kill each other over the fragment of the immortal king? How unfortunate. I wanted to destroy it once it fully matured." The vampire folded his arms, his smile widening as he continued. "I don't know who stole it, but I know exactly where it's going, so finding the thief won't be difficult." Heinz, still processing the bizarre situation, looked at Diana, his expression confused. A vampire? Tears streaming down her face. Diana nodded. Yes, vampires. The Varkala X and all the other organizations in this city, they're all run by vampires. Even if you escape the city, none of us will survive. They're all connected, and they'll hunt us down. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. We've been trying our best to hold on, but we're just getting picked off one by one. In the end, I know what will happen to us. Heinz reached out, gently grabbing her face and forcing her to meet his gaze. Listen to me, he said, his voice firm. If what you're saying is true, we don't have much time. Do you know where they've taken your brother? Diana hesitated. Looking down at the ground, she looked at him, uncertainty in her eyes, and then whispered, I don't know, but if you try to help me, it will be dangerous. You won't survive either, Heinz. Though the weight of the situation hung heavily in the air. Don't worry about that, he said confidently. I know how to fight back against these scoundrels. We'll make it through this. In his mind, the mission to save the girl and to get to the bottom of the sinister operations in the city had just begun. Sometime later, in a dimly lit tavern, a group of bandits sat around a table, laughing and playing cards. One of them tossed silver coins onto the table, calling all in. His companion looked at him with a grin. Where did a debtor like you get such a big pile of money? The first bandit leaned back and smirked. I robbed some idiot this morning. Made a nice profit. At that moment, the tavern doors flew open with a loud crash. The bandits turned in surprise just in time to see Heinz stride into the room, his expression determined. One of the bandits stood up with a sneer. What's this then? He said, striding toward Heinz. Who's this idiot? His comrade snickered. Is he some new fool who thinks he can challenge us? The bandit raised his hand to stop his friend, looking Heinz up and down before saying so. You're the idiot we robbed, came to give us more money. Did you? Heinz didn't flinch. He held his ground, his eyes steely with resolve. Meanwhile, near the entrance of the tavern, against the wall with the vampire symbol, blood dripped slowly from a wound. A guard lay slumped, his broken body leaning against the wall. The bandits sneered at the scene. What happened to the guards? He asked. Did you give him a coin or something? Heinz's expression darkened as he met the bandit's gaze. I won't ask again, he said quietly, but with a deadly edge in his voice. Where did you take the child? The bandit's face twisted in disbelief. What? He spat, raising his finger. Lord Heinz, are you out of your mind? Do you know who you're dealing with? In the blink of an eye, Heinz drew a knife from his belt and drove it straight into the bandit's throat. The man gasped, his eyes wide with shock as the blood began to spill. I know exactly who you are, Heinz said coldly, watching the life drain from the bandit. You're scum. You prey on families to satisfy your own selfish desires. As the bandit crumpled to the floor, the others in the tavern fell silent, eyes wide with fear. Heinz stood over the fallen body, his knife gleaming in the dim light, ready to face whatever came next. The mission was far from over. Heinz stood in the midst of the fallen bandits, his breathing heavy as the weight of the fight settled in. His knife was lodged deep into his shoulder, but he didn't flinch. Blood seeped from the wound, but he didn't have time to focus on it. There were still too many enemies around. Why are there so many? He muttered to himself. He had lost count of how many bandits he'd taken down in the chaos. Each one had been dispatched swiftly. His skills in combat, and the magical tools he brought with him, giving him a significant edge. But now more were coming down the stairs. He wrenched the knife out of his shoulder with a grimace, his gaze scanning the room. A couple of new bandits appeared at the top of the stairs, looking down at the carnage below. One of them shouted, "What's all the commotion about? Who the hell is this guy?" Heinz paused for a moment, annoyed at his own carelessness. Damn it. He thought his mouth had gotten him into trouble again. This wasn't the time for reckless talk. There were more screams from the building, growing louder as the fight escalated. The bandits kept coming, one after another. It felt endless. Eventually, Line stood alone in the middle of the fallen bodies, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his forehead. His shoulder throbbed where the knife had struck, but he had no time to think about it now. His focus was on the bandit still alive, groaning beneath him. He stepped over to the bandit, placing his foot firmly on his head. "Hey, big guy," he said with a sneer. "Where's the boy you captured today?" The bandit, still dazed and groaning in pain, glared up at him. "You think I'm just gonna tell you everything?" he snarled. "You're an outsider, aren't you? You don't even know who's behind this. You're going to regret this." Heinz's expression darkened, his eyes cold as steel. "I don't care who's behind this," he said, his voice low but steady. "I'll find the boy, and I'll make sure your little game ends here." The bandit struggled under Heinz's foot, but Heinz wasn't about to give him any leeway. He leaned in closer, whispering, "Tell me where he is and I'll make it quick. Otherwise, we'll see how long you can last." The bandit growled through gritted teeth, but Heinz could see the fear in his eyes. Despite his bravado, the man was terrified. "I don't know where they took him," the bandit spat. "But the leader, he's the one with all the answers. He's got a place near the old mill. Go there if you want to find the kit." Heinz's eyes narrowed. This was the break he needed. The mill got it. He stepped off the bandit's head and turned, heading for the door. As he did, he thought to himself, "This isn't over yet. They've taken too much from this town, and I'm going to put an end to it." He left the tavern, the weight of the mission heavy on his shoulders. There was no turning back now. After some time, Heinz opened the door to the room. Seeing the boy sitting on the floor, he asked, Is this Aaron, trembling with fear? Aaron held his head and begged for mercy. The Avatar knelt down, extended a hand toward him and reassured him. Don't be afraid. Aaron's sister had pleaded for his rescue. Confused, Aaron asked, "Do you know my sister?" At that moment, a vampire in bat form flew into the scene. Hines turned to Aaron, confirming it's true. "I'll explain everything once we're out of here. But first we need to leave." The vampire landed on the window and shifted into his human form. Glaring at Hines, he sneered, "Who are you? How dare you touch my food in my restaurant?" Hines froze, feeling a sinister presence behind him. The vampire taunted him, saying, "Are you from an oath of disobedience?" Taking Aaron by the shoulder, Hines thought. "A vampire," the vampire continued. "Or perhaps you're this boy's brother. Do you know what happens to those who defy us?" Smirking, the Avatar replied, "Me, just an outsider robbed by your rabble." Shielding Aaron, he added, "It's pure coincidence I helped this boy." The vampire extended a hand, scoffed, "Really? How dull. I prefer my meals lively. Both of you will die here." As the vampire fired a magical projectile that shattered the surroundings, Hines shielded Aaron with his body, yelling, "Run." The Avatar, now lying on the ground amidst spilled alcohol, gasped heavily. He sat up, noticing the smell of liquor, and muttered, "Alcohol. Is that a barrel?" He patted Aaron's head, asking, "Are you okay? This is it. You need to hurry and get outside." Just then, the vampire landed nearby, sneering, dodged. "You're faster than I expected. A good warm-up before dinner." The vampire lunged with claws extended, but the Avatar shoved Aaron toward the door, shouting, "Run, and don't look back." Wielding his sword, he blocked the attack but noticed the vampire's claws growing longer. They pierced his body as the vampire mockingly praised his regeneration abilities. Hines clenched his teeth, realizing the power gap was immense. The vampire, licking his lips, remarked, "Unexpected, but you'll make a fine delicacy despite the pain." Hines thought, "If I hesitate, I'll die." He swung his hand, but the vampire severed it effortlessly. Laughed, "Oh dear. I'll carve you up before I feast." Lifting Hines to the air on his claws, the vampire declared, "This is where your resistance ends." As he leaned toward Hines's neck, Hines thought, "If strength isn't enough, then we'll both die." From his mouth, he unleashed a hidden fire spell, engulfing the area in flames. Shocked, the vampire shouted, "What is this? A fire magic tool you were hiding?" Thrown to the ground, Hines noticed the alcohol spilling across the floor. A plan formed in his mind. The vampire screamed in terror, "You're insane. Do you want to burn us both alive?" The vampire attacked, slashing Hines's body, laughing maniacally. He jeered fragile flesh, but Hines had butted him with full force, sending him flying. "You said it yourself. I have a strong body and good regeneration. Tough enough for you," he growled. The vampire screamed, "No, stop." But Hines advanced, and the next moment an explosion consumed the building. Amidst the flames, Hines lay on the floor murmuring, "Impressive. I survived. Being strong has its challenges." A notification appeared before him. "Mission complete. Helped the unlucky girl." Outside the burning building, Diana clung to her brother, staring at the inferno. "Uncle," she cried. Meanwhile, a system window announced Avatar Hines has died. The Avatar will respawn in 7 days. Diana stood there, exhausted from her work, wiping the sweat from her brow as she watched the man walk away. She had been cleaning his shoes for what felt like hours, and now that the job was finished, she could finally take a moment to catch her breath. The money left on the table was a small consolation, but it would be enough to help with the next day's bills. Her thoughts drifted to the events that had unfolded not long ago. The building that had once been the scene of chaos was now nothing but a smoldering wreck. She had heard that the Avatar Hines had been consumed by the flames, leaving her to wonder about the fate of the man who had helped her and her brother. The world around her flickered and a new familiar figure stood before her. There was Hines, alive, standing in the middle of the street, as if nothing had happened. His body was covered in bandages, but the intense aura he exuded made it clear he had come back somehow. Diana stared at him, mouth agape. Her heart skipped a beat. Uncle Hines's eyes softened and he smiled faintly, despite the pain he was clearly in. "I told you I'd be back," he said. His voice. It was then that the system window appeared in front of him, announcing that Avatar Hines had been reborn. After 7 days, his rebirth had been completed, and with it came a sense of purpose, a new mission to carry out the flames from the explosion, the chaos, the danger. They were all behind him now, but Hines knew this was just the beginning. Whatever had happened, whatever lay ahead, he was ready, and this time, he wouldn't fail. Diana slowly approached him, her eyes filled with disbelief and relief. "You're really here? You're alive." Hines nodded, offering her a reassuring smile. "I told you I'd keep my promise." He extended his hand, a gesture of both gratitude and solidarity. "Let's move forward together." And with that, they began to walk side by side, ready to face whatever challenge. After some time, Hines sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the system window, deep in thought. It displayed that the interdimensional transfer would take 10 days to complete. "Longer than I expected," he muttered, "but that's fine." Suddenly, the wall burst apart and Varric stormed in. Grabbing Hines by the neck, he slammed him against the wall and growled, "This was your doing, wasn't it? The tracks from the forest lead straight here." Hines, gasping for air, thought vampires. Have they figured it out already? Varric sneered. The outsider was under the jurisdiction of my slain kin, he accused. Despite his struggle, Heinz couldn't muster the strength to fight back. What a monster, he thought. His teeth clenched in frustration. Leaning closer, Varric sniffed the air around Heinz's neck. I don't sense the aura of dark magic or the blood of my king, he mused aloud. Heinz? Barely able to speak. What are you talking about? I don't understand, I was just sleeping. Varric grinned menacingly. Don't understand, huh? Let's see about that. Pulling Heinz closer, he sank his fangs into his neck. I'll ask again, slowly this time. Lies won't work. Heinz convulsed in pain, thinking this is insane. Why is this happening to me again? The system window flashed a notification. Entity appearance has changed. Vampire Varric. Released him, stepping back as another message appeared. Special skill acquired. Legacy of Lesser Blood. Heinz's super regeneration had been replaced with regeneration still radiating an overwhelming aura. Varric, so are you truly uninvolved? The vow of disobedience. Heinz felt the oppressive authority of the higher vampire. His blood screaming for submission. Swallowing heart, he replied. No, Lord Varric. I'm just a simple traveler. Despite the instinct to obey, Heinz knew his center of the mind ability blocked the compulsion. Varric turned away, muttering, was I mistaken? Then he commanded, follow me. We have important matters to attend to. Heinz smiled faintly. Fine, I'll go and gather some intel while I'm at it. They soon arrived at the Asanta branch of the Varkulak clan. Inside, vampires greeted Varric with respect, though their eyes narrowed at Heinz once sneered. What is this? New blood? A female vampire covered her mouth, disdainful. What were you thinking, bringing scum like this? Before Heinz could react, Rose Alicia appeared, a glass of red liquid in hand. Beaming, she grabbed his arm. Hello, little blood. Long time no see, she exclaimed. Her cheerful demeanor caught Heinz off guard. Who is this drunkard? He thought. She introduced herself with a bright smile. I'm Rose, Alicia and you. He hesitated but answered. Heinz. Rose Alicia handed him the glass. Don't be rude. We're both lesser bloods, aren't we? Here, freshly squeezed blood. Drink up. And stared at the glass, debating. If I drink, I might avoid suspicion. Taking a small sip, he felt a surge of thirst even through his mental filter. Alarmed, he thought, drinking this is dangerous. Blocking the taste and smell, he downed the rest in one gulp. Delicious, he said flatly. Rose Alicia ran her finger along his cheek with a playful grin. I like you if you were human. I drain you dry, she teased. He laughed awkwardly. You called me lesser blood. What does that mean, Rose? Alicia tilted her head, placing a finger on her chin. Ah, you don't know about vampire ranks, she asked incredulously. Lesser bloods are like knights to humans. Pure bloods, though, they're the aristocracy. For example, Lord Varric Rose. Alicia explained. The clan leaders are known as the true blood, and above them is the sacred blood. She paused before adding, well, it's like a god. The avatar raised an eyebrow. A god? He asked. She nodded. Our prophet, the one we must obey without question at that moment. Varric, standing on the second floor, tapped his spoon against his glass to draw attention. It seems everyone is here, he announced. Let's get down to business. The room quieted as Vera continued. The fragments of the immortal king have disappeared. From across the room, Perida, a pure-blood vampire, casually adjusted a strand of her hair. Observing the proceedings, Verica elaborated, we've determined that the fragments were last transported to the city, but at some point, they vanished without a trace. Teopal, another pure-blood, folded his arms and listened as Varric suggested. It's possible they've already been brought into the city. Heinz glanced up, his curiosity piqued. The fragments of the immortal, he asked Rose. Alicia sighed, giving him a knowing look. Don't you know dark mages from a certain village were cultivating the fragments of the immortal king? Heinz furrowed his brow. And the oath of defiance? Where are they in all this? Varric addressed the group. From today onward, each of you will thoroughly investigate your assignment. Areas report anything suspicious immediately. Later, as Rosa Alicia shielded herself from the sun with an umbrella, she grumbled. Walking around during the day ruins my skin. Heinz, standing beside her and adjusting the hood of his cloak, remarked, sunlight weakens us. It's no surprise. Both their faces glistened with sweat. Rosalia continued, even Lady Perida, a pure blood, is out searching. We can't just sit around doing nothing, she sighed. Still, it's surprising the fragments vanished. Moving them has always been a hassle. Heinz turned to her, intrigued. You mean you've had the fragments of the immortal king? She nodded casually. The black magicians once cultivated them. We thought we could combine them with ours. Heinz clenched his fists, his thoughts racing. What a break. He looked at her intently and grabbed her shoulders. Where are they? Do you know the location of the fragments, Rose? Alicia laughed. How would someone like me know? A voice cut in from nearby. I think I might know, Diana said between bites of food. Heinz turned to her in shock. What? The fragments of the immortal king. You know where they are? Diana nodded hesitantly. I think so.